pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, 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 pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
You said, quote, I've drunk deeply of the venom of both the left and the right. As a connoisseur, I can confirm that the most poisonous, the bitterest, is from the far left. That is pretty remarkable to hear you say that as an elected Democrat. Why?
No. It's just been my personal experience on this thing. And when I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms, really what's kind of the harshest, what's kind of the most personal? And the answer was immediate. He said, oh, blue sky, it's blue sky. And the difference is, the right would say really rough things and names, some names I won't repeat on TV, but the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? And I hope your kids find you. They even have like the graphic a GIF where they have like a stroke, in your head, cheering at that. Yeah, and they said that. I remember one. They claimed, the doctor let us down, and why did they have to save his life? Just really, I just can't imagine. People are wishing, I wish he dies, or I want him to die, literally cheering for a stroke. And I don't know what the kind of a place where that comes from. That's much different than just calling me a name. That's really been consistent, in that community online.
No, good morning. How we doing out there? Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. Let's give a big shout out and a thank you to Connor Martin out from his patrol car this morning tuning in. He's out there serving and protecting. You damn right. You see Connor, give him a wave, but don't carry any of this THC in your car, depending on what state you live in. It's legal here in Missouri. Good morning, pineapples. I know you're all tired, but come on, wakey, eggs and bakey. Grab a box of Founding Flavors coffee from the Griff Shop. Let's get this show going. I'm here live from the belly of the beast, Jefferson City. The government has reopened, 37 degrees here in Jeff City. Somewhere a TSA agent is rediscovering the thrill of making your grandmother throw away her yogurt. No, Grandma! The TSA agent just takes one look at your grandma holding her yogurt, and he shouts in some foreign language, "Afuera!" Throw it out. We're not going to start with a shutdown today, though. We're going to begin with a fight that tells you everything about the split inside the Republican Party. The war over hemp. Yes, hemp. So this is the plant that the Founding Fathers grew without a single lobbyist in sight. The plant that Mitch McConnell once championed when it was brought to Kentucky. Now, Senate Republicans tried to slip a federal THC container limit into the spending bill that's so restrictive that it would wipe out the entire industry overnight. And Rand Paul, God bless this man, stood up and said, "Are you people insane?" He tried to strip the language out of the bill. They blocked him, and he voted against the bill. And this isn't about cannabis. This is about whether Republicans believe in the free market or whether the ghosts of the Prohibition Bureau are still writing their legislation. Who here knows the tale of the man, Harry Anslinger? In the A2 today, we're going to shift gears to something Washington reporters don't know what to do with, and that is the Barron Trump factor. If you haven't been following this now, you should. Barron, who is a college student, he just moved into the White House. He was at NYU in New York City, but he's come down to Washington, D.C. to go to the D.C. campus and moved into the White House with his dad. People inside the building, people who talk in careful tones and say things like off the record, right? They say that Donald Trump actually listens to him. Think about the political movement that we're in right now. Think about succession, image crafting, and generational appeal. And also think about how dynasties are formed in democracies where the next generation sort of grows up inside of the machinery. So today we're going to talk about what this means for policy and strategy and the future of the Trump coalition. Does MAGA die when Trump dies, as some people are saying? I see a lot of people screaming online about H-1B visas. We certainly don't want any geniuses coming to the United States and taking all of our genius jobs, do we, guys? If we had just kept Einstein overseas, he wouldn't have come here to the United States and brought all of his theories here and brought all of his genius. He took our genius jobs. You know what I'm saying, guys? So MAGA is dead because Trump said some things about the H-1B visas. We'll talk about that with Camelia Peterson, who's going to be on the show today. I hope Connor can listen to that. Connor, don't you want to hang out with Camelia? She'll be here at 8 a.m. Central. That's an hour from now. You'll probably be beating some crook's head in. That's okay. Good. Somebody's got to do it. Physically remove. We're going to talk about the Groyper wars. We're going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy. We're going to talk about the H-1B visas and why some MAGA are furious with Trump, saying that the MAGA movement is dead. This is a conversation about identity. It's about immigration. It's about merit, xenophobia, and movement discipline. We're putting it all on the table for this conversation. It seems like a lot of MAGA people, they want meritocracy until they have to compete with people who aren't Americans. And then it's like, do you think we can get away in the United States with not competing with the world? Do we think that we can? And then they'll start talking about fairness and all that shit. And it's like, bro, just go to the socialists. So just go to the left. If you're going to be, there's a woke left and there's a woke right. You may not like to hear it, but accept it. You may not like it, but accept it. Macho Man Randy Savage. So, and then the B2 segment, we're going international. I'm excited to talk to this guy. He's interesting. He has the balls to call himself a neoconservative on his X profile on a website that's very hostile to neoconservatives. So I'll talk to anybody with balls and some who don't. It's 2025. He's from Canada. He's a Canadian YouTuber. Don't want him taking your YouTube jobs, guys. Wyatt Claypool, he's taking up a lot of your YouTube jobs. No, he reports mostly on Canadian politics, but he said something that most influencers would never dare utter, and that is that the right, we are us people, our peoples, we the peoples, we might be inflating our numbers online with botting activity. He is insinuating, implying, inferring very heavily that certain creators are boosting engagement artificially, that foreign money may be flowing, speaking of foreigners, foreign money may be flowing into the influencer ecosystem. And on top of that, he's going to break down how the isolationist wing on the right, the paleocons, are picking fights with neocons and hawkish conservatives from Canada to Kansas. So the ideological war inside the movement is not just real, it's accelerating. And Wyatt is right in the middle of it. He's got a pretty big YouTube channel. So we're going to talk about that this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time on the show. We'd be glad to have you be a regular guest on the show. If it's Ashley Ann, she says, is not even showing up. This stream is not showing up on. Oh, you know why it's not? That's my fault. That's entirely my fault. You know, I don't know. I wonder if there's a way to fix. No, there's no way to fix that. I hate that. I'm so sorry, Ashley. That definitely means that we're going to have a smaller audience today. We're not on the backup page. We should be on the other page. Had to follow the link from X. Man, womp womp. What a... I hate that so much. I hate that so much. There's like a billion settings. I won't get too much into it or say woe is me. But there's just so many freaking stinking settings that you have to set that are just have to be just right, or else it just destroys everything when you live stream like this. But that's why I like, God bless her. You know, we've got a new show coming up, Mylene, and she is struggling trying to get the technology right because it is a lot. And you know, I'm a digital native, so it's a little bit different for me. But even see me, I still screw it up. Essentially, there's a setting where you put it to the user account, which is AP for Liberty, or you go to the channel account, which is AP for Liberty. And guess what? It's both the same name. So you have to just like make sure that it's not one or the other, or else it just screws up everything. So you're an idiot, Austin. You're an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Oh, God. Yeah. So if you want to get an audience in here today, we're going to have to do the heavy lifting and get out there. We're going to have to bot our numbers. There you go. We're going to have to boost it. We'd have to hire some kids from Pakistan to bot it. We'll get some Chinese spies up in here and this stuff. So we're going to talk to Wyatt Claypool at 8:30 a.m. Central Time this morning. And for those of you out there who have been financial contributors to this show, Amy J. Ease, she gives so much to the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network. Ashley Ann, she's always on our show for Freedom Arcade, except for last week. Where was she? Suburban Dad Corey is kind of a newer guy to our community. It's been nice to see him. But if you guys have made financial contribution or Rumble Rants in the past, I just want to say thank you so much. And for those of you who haven't, I would love to invite you to have today be the first day that you open up your wallet and make a contribution to the Wake Up America show. We do have bonus content unlocked, so the money doesn't go into a pit. It goes to help produce the 5-minute mini documentary that I have produced, ready for you to unlock. So it's an unlockable. It's kind of like a game. You want to help to unlock the 5-minute mini documentary. It's way more fun to watch the mini documentary that I produce new every day than it is to watch commercials whenever I have to go to commercial breaks. So I produce the bonus content for you as a fun way to sort of enhance. It's like choose your own adventure to some extent. And that's if we hit $100. Now, you don't have to just donate Rumble Rants. You can say, well, Austin, I'm a capitalist. I like to get something for my money. Well, my brother in Christ, I have the best website for Liberty merch in the freaking planet. There is nobody who does Liberty merch better than me. Check it out. And it's free shipping in the USA. I have the best coffee. Jeffersonian Java is the #1 all-time bestseller in the shop. Congratulations to Thomas Jefferson, still pushing out dubs 250 years later. Founding Flavors coffee is highly recommended by people who actually drink it, and they've written recommendations for you on the site. This is Martha's Mint, which is our seasonal blend, and people stinking love it. Kermit Bear buys like 10 boxes at a time, which is good for you because we have a volume discount for anybody who wants to try our coffee and wants to save money. The best way to do it is to buy 2 or 3 or 4 boxes. I can lower the price for you when you buy in volume, and I'm really excited to do that because honestly, pricing is a bitch. It's really hard to manage pricing on websites and try and meet your customers' needs while also turning a profit for yourself. But we have priced it. Remember, that price includes the shipping, and if you buy more than one, then the dollars start dropping off of the transaction. So go throw a few boxes into your cart, and then guess what? That counts to unlock the bonus content on the Wake Up America show. But we also have a special game show mode. So if you really want to get crazy, if we raise $150 on the show this morning, that will turn this show into a game show where you'll win real prizes if you donated or bought from the shop this morning. And that turns it into a game. We call it the Great Grift Off, right? Because it's just a funny name, Liberty Loot Live. And everybody gets to play on their phone at home and have a chance to win real prizes from the Grift Shop. So there you go. Go shopping. Funnily enough, one of our most popular products is the only reason we put this in here is because people were like, Austin, if I want to buy your coffee, I need to I drink K-cups. So how can I do this? Well, for $13.99, we have these K-cup filters, and they actually get really good reviews. So it's just funny because we didn't set out to sell K-cup accessories, but you know what? Maybe we need to get in the K-cup industry. We have the ability to add K-cup coffee pods of some of our favorite coffees to the shop, but they didn't really sell that well when we tried them last time, so maybe we'll try again soon. Don't forget to click the like button at a minimum and click follow if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show. So It's Thursday, thank God. And it's time to get into the meat of this. So I know what you're thinking, guys. Hemp, I know you guys are like, did the GOP take over? Did the Cheech and Chong take over the GOP? No. So this is actually far more serious than anyone in the legacy press is really bothering to acknowledge, because what you're seeing right now is the collision between three Republican impulses. This is the libertarian free market instinct, which is the old guard regulatory instinct. And let's be honest, I don't, there are some people, the people who are against it who are like, I don't know what this plant does, but I'm against it. Here's just one example of how hemp can be used in our society. Listen to this.
Degrees Fahrenheit, which is nearly 1,000 degrees Celsius. Hempcrete walls have survived over an hour of intense fire without the inside even heating up. In other words, fire might char the surface, but it won't break through. But get this is the part that blew me away. It's naturally a thermal insulator, so you don't need any insulation when you're building the home. It naturally has moisture control properties. It breathes, regulating humidity, and stops mold before it can even start. It's carbon negative. It absorbs CO2 as it grows. That carbon stays locked in the walls of your home. Hempcrete doesn't rot, it doesn't attract pests, and it gets stronger over time. It doesn't degrade. It literally has zero downfalls. It's not just a pipe dream either. Companies around the world are using it right now, and they're growing fast. Traditional construction relies on materials that burn, rot, or pollute. They also need to be treated with chemicals. Hemp does none of that. It's safer, stronger, and better for the planet, and yet it's still fighting for mainstream acceptance. The construction industry is slow to change, but change is coming. Imagine a future where every new suburb is fire resistant by default, where homes breathe, last longer, and clean the air before they're even built. That's not fantasy, that's hemp. The home of the future isn't steel and glass. It's green, it's breathing, and built from plants, with roots in ancient history and a future in modern construction. I do believe that. Now we just got to get to the point where people can actually afford to buy a house.
I blame big paper, says Suburban Dadcore. Amy J.E. says you can make rope and all sorts of products. I don't get the hate. It's buried between like this juxtaposition. It's one of those products. And hemp, you can't even smoke hemp. It's not a stimulant or a narcotic or whatever marijuana is considered to be. It doesn't give you the effect. You'd have to smoke a telephone pole sized joint. And that's how not Donald Trump, but that's how Ron Paul used to describe it. He said, you'd have to smoke hemp the size of a telephone pole to get anything from it. So here's the setup. Congress just passed a bill to reopen the government. Then buried in the deep in this bill was a provision that would ban most hemp-derived THC products in America. Here's my friend Jack Hunter, who was talking about it yesterday.
I'm making this video on the day after the government shutdown has ended, where Republicans and Democrats came together to get something done on that front. But the reason I'm making this video is my former boss, Senator Rand Paul, saw something in some of the final legislation that would recriminalize the hemp industry. Now, let me explain what that means. We decide what you do with hemp, different hemp laws in different states at the state level. That's what we do in the U.S. these days. And it's a giant industry. I think it affects well over 20 states to the tune of about $30 billion annually. We're talking about a lot of money, a lot of jobs, a lot of farmers, big industry. Well, Rand Paul saw legislation in the final draft or whatever they came up with. I'm no expert. I'm just talking about this at a base level because that's why I wanted to make this video, because that's how silly and goofy and stupid some of this is. What he found is that the hemp industry, because of this massive bill that would reopen the government, buried in it, it would recriminalize hemp. So all these people who've had legitimate businesses that have nothing to do with people getting high and smoking marijuana, the THC levels in this stuff is nowhere near that. We're talking about something different. So that's a different debate for a different time. But this stuff's used to make rope and industrial products and different things. CBD might be related. I take CBD when I get on an airplane anymore because I'm getting older and I get scared of heights. So, and it's legal in most places. It helps people. But the hemp industry would be decimated if just Republicans and Democrats threw into the government reopening bill a reason to recriminalize. It used to be criminal, then it wasn't, now they want to do it again into this bill. Well, the bill passed, and the reason I'm making this video, because I'm kind of pissed off about it, you saw people last night, I guess that would have been Monday night, you saw people who were mad at Rand Paul, oh, he's the single vote that's holding up this reopening the government, which was not true. The scheduling was the same. He just wanted to remove the language. But you saw the lie repeated over and over again. You saw it coming from Democrats. You saw it coming from Republicans. What you also saw coming from some Republican-friendly voices was this idea that, oh, Rand Paul, the libertarian, wants to protect the right of stoners to get stoned, and that's why he's holding up the government reopening, when that's what wasn't happening at all. You saw Fox News' Laura Ingraham saying something goofy like that when she knows better. She's not a stupid person.
No, they do that because they know they know that most people are stupid persons. So I'm going to say they know that you're a stupid person, but not you. Anybody who is smart enough to find the Wake Up America show this morning and get in here, despite the fact that I'm not on the page that I should be on, is excluded from you. They know that the people that are not watching this show are so stupid that they don't know that hemp is not going to be an intoxicant. But Laura Ingraham knows that if she posts that, it's going to get a lot of traction and people are going to agree with her and all that kind of stuff. Do you understand how the media works yet? It's not about saying what's true. It's not about being honest about who you are. It's about telling people what they want to hear so that you can get the biggest audience. And trust me, there's a playbook. You just run the playbook and you just get to a certain level in the media where you just kind of run the plays. It doesn't matter what you actually believe. Most people on television are playing characters. You're watching television news and you think that you're watching news. Yeah, you're watching people talk about news. Sometimes they do talk about events, but for the most part, it's just like those pictures of the wrestlers on Jack Hunter's walls back there. Boy, he's got a little crush on Tulsi Gabbard, but I get it. But who are the wrestlers over here on the wall? Oh yeah, that's what professional politics is. smart. So in 2018, Congress passed a farm bill, the same Mitch McConnell supported farm bill that legalized industrial hemp nationwide, and that is defined as cannabis containing less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC. That is the bill that led directly to the explosion of CBD oils, Delta-8 gummies, and hemp-derived wellness products in virtually every gas station from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. So whether that is a triumph of free enterprise or an indictment of American stress levels, we will debate that for another day. But according to the Missouri Independent, this is a newspaper, more than 40,000 businesses, food stores, vape shops, farm operations would be affected by the new Senate measure. That's just one state's numbers. Scale that nationally, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs, many of them small, blue-collar, rural operations that the GOP claims to champion, right? We're talking about agriculture here. And this sudden crackdown, it didn't come from a health study or long deliberation. It was just slipped quietly into a 400-page spending deal during the shutdown chaos. And it's fascinating because on one side of the Republican Kentucky delegation, you have Mitch McConnell reportedly supporting the crackdown, and on the other, you have Rand Paul sounding the alarm. So it's freedom versus paternalism, liberty versus bureaucracy, Jefferson versus Hamilton's played out with edibles. And anybody who's a patriot that's worth their salt knows that George Washington he grew hemp He grew hemp. Yeah. When Stephanie and I went to visit Mount Vernon earlier this year with the Liberty Tour, and God bless, was it an amazing Liberty Tour. We went to Washington, D.C. We went to Mount Vernon. Little baby Hazel somehow slept through a gigantic Revolutionary War cannon going off next to her. And you got to understand, it wasn't just loud. It's not just loud when a cannon goes off next to you. There's the percussion. And baby Hazel's just like, she's like, and the Native Americans are out there getting ready to get him some scalps. I was kind of surprised. I knew that Donald Trump was the president when the Native Americans were out there hunting scalps during the Revolutionary War reenactments. I got my little, I don't know if you can see him, so we can put him up to the camera. I got this little pewter guy at Mount Vernon, and I promptly broke him, of course. I dropped him off of the shelf and had to, Stephanie glued his feet, and now he kind of looks a little crooked. I was just like, I was so upset. Now when I look at this, though, I'm like, damn, that was my ancestor, Isaac Wade. That's probably what he looked like when he fought the British at Germantown, Brandywine, Charleston, and Battle of Yorktown, baby. Yeah. So George Washington grew hemp. Mount Vernon documented his hemp production back in 1765. He wasn't running a dispensary. He was producing rope and sails and fabric. Hemp was a staple crop across the early republic. You could get fined if you didn't grow hemp. It was such an important product. And in true Washington fashion, he wrote in his diary about separating the male and female plants for quality, which is more attention to agricultural detail than Congress gave in this bill. So imagine walking into the Continental Congress and telling them, gentlemen, one day the federal government will nearly shut down over a fight, not to raise hemp fields, but to ban hemp gummies. They'd assume that you'd been kicked by a horse. But here we are. And here's the real question. Why is the GOP doing this now? Well, part of this is pressure from state officials who are tired of Delta 8 and Delta 10 popping up everywhere. Part of it is the marijuana industry trying to kneecap their hemp-derived competition. They don't want competition. They want you to go to the dispensary and get the real stuff, right? And of course, part of this is the eternal desire of government regulators to regulate. Bureaucracy is like mold. It grows best in the dark, moist environments like Senate subcommittees. You know what I'm saying? Ew. Boo. Hit the boo button. And whether you like hemp or not, guys, here's the thing. Even if you don't like hemp, this matters because if the federal government can wipe out an entire lawful industry that Congress itself legalized 7 years ago, what's next, guys? Founding flavors coffee with more than 200 milligrams of caffeine, a ban on spicy chicken sandwiches because someone in the FDA had a rough lunch. I mean, that tells you everything that you need to know about the fractures in the GOP. All right, Republicans, they don't know how to take the win. They don't know how to take the win. They just want to destroy. All right, guys, we're going to talk this morning about Emperor, our Lord and Savior, Barron Trump. What? Oh, God, we're going to talk about the dynasty. But before we do, guys, don't forget to click that like button. And sorry if you had to work hard to find us this morning. I put this stream on the wrong page, but hopefully we will get some, everybody who wants to find us can. You always know that the forlibertynetwork.com website is a Discord channel that we use to coordinate. So if you're ever having questions, hey, where's the show? Where's the stream? Then don't forget that just, if you go to forlibertynetwork.com, we should all be in there hooking you up with how to get in there. Real quick, I just want to take a quick break, guys, so I can get my script together so I can have all my facts for you for the next segment. So don't go away. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess.
That guy is huge. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. If you found us on Rumble today, congratulations. You're one of the lucky ones. But remember, the show always does stream on other platforms if we're ever having problems with Rumble. This morning, it's my fault that we're not on the proper channel page. Sorry about that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about something that this is a story that the mainstream media could never wrap their head around, right? But this is one that has been bubbling up on the internet for years. We're talking about the Barron Trump phenomenon. Not just like a policy angle alone or just like the whispered influence in the White House, right? But the far more fascinating and far more revealing truth about Donald Trump's son. Barron Trump didn't just move into the White House, right? When he went from NYU, New York City, now he's living in Washington, D.C. Before he even set foot in the residence as a college sophomore, he was already living rent-free in the imagination of Generation Z, the Zoomers. For almost a decade, since 2016, Barron Trump became something rare in politics. He kind of became a cultural icon by accident. He became a meme without trying to be one, and a symbol of a generation that saw in him themselves. It was very popular for a meme that went around showing he's just like me, for real, right? And so here's the source. The lore begins where all lore begins, on 4chan, Reddit, and TikTok, 2016 to 2019. So back when Barron was a preteen and the cameras would occasionally catch him on stage looking exhausted at 3 a.m., certain internet corners like 4chan's politics board or Reddit's The Donald, when it was allowed to exist, and then eventually TikTok began to craft what I would call a mythos around the president's son. It's kind of a narratorless legend, not an official or even political one, but just memes, right? But these memes had legs. So he was portrayed, Barron Trump, as the quiet, misunderstood, introverted kid who was trapped in a political circus. And that spoke to Generation Z's soul, the most terminally online generation in human history who had been raised on irony and sarcasm and alienation. People started calling him the relatable Trump or the introvert king, the kid who didn't choose this life, the chosen one for Generation Z, or the future coder president. A meme came out after a clip of him playing on a laptop went viral. And then another phrase they used to describe him, the Trump who gets it. And Barron Trump, he's about 6'9", Quest Fanning asks. I don't know exactly how tall he is. I probably should have looked that up before this segment. But I'm covering the memes here on the show this morning, Quest. If you could cover the facts, that would be great. Womp womp. Wait. So this is documented in meme archives and old social media threads. This is not journalism per se, but it's folklore. And folklore matters when building societies and civilization. Here's what made him powerful. His silence. His silence made him powerful. And here's where it gets interesting, because Barron never spoke publicly. He never gave interviews. He never posted online. He became a blank canvas, the ideal avatar. And Generation Z, the Zoomers, projected onto him whatever meaning they needed. So if you wanted a reflection of how the Zoomers were feeling or how they see themselves, then you can see how they describe Barron Trump, because he was seen as an avatar for Generation Z. Alienation, he symbolized it. Being trapped in the adult world, he embodied it. Wanting to escape politics, they cast him as a prisoner of the palace. Wanting to reject the establishment, they imagined him secretly agreeing with them, Generation Z. And this is where his legend evolves. Barron Trump as the master strategist. This is his second arc from 2020 to 2023. I had so much fun putting this segment together last night, guys. I hope you enjoy it. During Trump's first term, but especially after he left office, a wave of TikTok trends and X threads began pushing the idea, jokingly, but also earnestly, that Barron was the mastermind behind Trump's few good decisions. And this is not just meme world gossip. This is, it is meme world gossip, but it's also folklore that is these myths, these legends become part of our conversation and show us who we are as a society. These are TikTok compilations, Discord threads, and Reddit jokes that I pulled to gather for this story. And here are the specifics. So when Donald Trump launched Space Force, TikTok users joked that Barron pitched it while he was playing Halo. When Trump would post bizarre memes or tweeted gamer-style insults, Generation Z said that Barron Trump typed it. Excuse me. When Trump took stances that would appeal to young men, if it was an anti-bureaucracy thing or an anti-censorship or anti-woke, then Generation Z commenters would write that Barron told him to take that position. Was any of it true? Probably not, but it felt true to the people who created it. And in politics, feelings often matter more than facts. I don't know whether they get a womp womp to that or an applause. Thank you so much to my buddy Andy. He just went and bought a box of Martha's Mint. I hope that Brad Beckman's keeping an eye on things, because if we do hit the $100 raised this morning, guys, then we will unlock the bonus content. Just keep a tally for me, Brad. I need to see the results of the Dawn Pass, he said live on air. Barron is a time traveler, once and future king, says Arvold. See, you see what I'm saying? This is the level of memery. This is how much of a meme Barron Trump has become. Everybody knows it. It's part of our culture now. It's not the kind of, and you know what's funny is that this story that you're hearing right now, what I'm germinating here on the Wake Up America show for you this morning, the seeds that we're planting here, you will see this. You will see these stories talking about these in more official, professional ways in the coming years. You watch the legacy media or the mainstream media, whatever you call it, to find out what happened yesterday. You watch the Wake Up America show to find out what's going to happen like middle of next year. That's why you're here. We're talking about the trends before they happen. And we've got, if you think that the first hour is good so far, guys, wait until the second hour when I bring my guests on. Camelia is going to be here to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, H-1Bs, H-1B visas, and the front lines of the Groyper wars, which is another story that is going to bubble up. And we're talking about what's going to happen middle of next year, because the Wake Up America show pays attention not just to the trends and the things that have happened, but we're looking at the things that might happen. So I hope you would recommend us to our friends. Can I tell you just a brief little second before I hop back onto the Barron Trump story? You know, I'm always trying to document my failures. And I learn a lot more from my failures than I do my successes. And I think anybody who's been successful would tell you that. But I saw yesterday the brutal truth. This is what my AI wrote for me. I've been asking AI for like my analytics on the shop, the Griff shop. And I'm like, tell me the hard truths. Tell me that. I said yesterday, I asked the AI, I said, I know there are some things that I don't know, but what are the things that I don't know about my store? So now I can ask questions like that to the AI. It can go and look at the analytics of the Griff shop, and it can tell me, well, your conversion rate is not good, or you're not sending up a follow-up email or a text message in the right way, et cetera, et cetera. And I said yesterday, tell me some things that I don't know about my store. And then it wrote me this report, and I was like, whoa, the brutal truth. The brutal truth is, it says your repeat purchase rate is catastrophic. And it listed all of the things that I'm missing, meaning that people like you, if you've bought from the store before, you've probably only bought from the store once. And that's really bad for me. I'm supposed to be working hard to take you and turn you into an Andy Opperman, per se. And so now I need to, especially in the new year, try and find a way to convince the 64 people and however many of those people that I need to become repeat customers. So if you want to hook me up today with a little bit of analytic data and hook yourself up, make sure you visit the Griff Shop at thegriffshop.com. Help me to increase that repeat customer rate so that my AI won't tell me what an idiot I am. Your repeat purchase is catastrophic, which means disaster to my business if I don't turn this around. And that's the kind of data and information I wouldn't have if I didn't have my AI to query it, because I don't know what I don't know. You don't go to store to run an e-commerce business. I'm just making this up as I go along. But thank God for artificial intelligence, because it can answer these questions for me. So if you've bought before, and if you've never bought before, go and make a purchase at forlibertyshop.com. Help us to unlock that bonus content. Looks like we're well on our way to hitting that $100 level. And if we hit $150 level, guys, then we'll unlock the great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live game show at the end of the show. Returning to the comments, Generation Z saw a piece of themselves in Barron Trump. Generation Z is probably the loneliest, most isolated generation in modern history. Every study confirms this. Pew Research, Gallup, APA surveys. And here was a kid raised in the public eye, but totally silent, tall, awkward, introverted, standing behind the political chaos, kind of like a ghostly observer. And that spoke to something real. Barron became the anti-politician politician. He's kind of the accidental Gen Z mascot for introverts, children of dysfunctional families, kids of divorce, young men trying to figure out masculinity, teenagers who felt that life happened to them instead of for them, and people who resent the constant adult noise of our modern society. So Barron Trump became the projection surface for Generation Z. Even Christopher Hitchens, who was the patron saint of contrarians, wrote once that silence is sometimes the most powerful form of participation. And the internet took Barron's silence and they made him into a symbol. Going to 2020 to 2024, the future leader meme was born. And the next part of this is really remarkable because on TikTok and X, people, again, mostly jokingly, but with a serious undertone, began posting edits of Barron Trump. And there were captions like Barron 2048 or the next Trump, or he's the one we're waiting for, future emperor and my president, right? And creators were stitching these clips into anime edits, heroic music, slow motion footage. This is the same treatment that like K-pop idols will get. What do we call this? This is archetype formation. Carl Jung could have written a dissertation on this. A silent figure becomes a vessel for collective wish making. He becomes the coin fountain at the mall that you cast your wishes and your aspirations and your dreams into it. And then, of course, that spawned the Protect Barron movement. Now, you might remember this because this hit mainstream waves. When anybody online criticized or mocked Barron during the 2016 to 2020 period, he had a Praetorian Guard online. Generation Z mobilized like a digital militia. They flooded online comment sections. They would dox offenders. They treated Barron Trump like he was sacred. And it wasn't political loyalty. This wasn't a Republican Democrat thing. This was cultural loyalty, the same instinct that people had for Britney Spears during the conservatorship era, people had for Barron Trump. It said the kid didn't choose this. Leave him alone. And let's point out the obvious here. This instinct does not belong to conservatives or to liberals. It belongs to youth. They saw Barron Trump as one of them, lifted unwillingly into the arena. And now all of this, to put a cap on all this, is the return to the White House. So the symbol becomes material. Barron Trump moves into the White House as a 19-year-old. He's not a myth. He's not a meme edit. No longer an avatar even, right? He's a physical presence inside the residence. And because of the years of myth making, this real life move detonates like a cultural bomb. The avatar becomes incarnate. To the insiders in Washington, it's a first son returns home story. But to the Generation Z kids who shaped this mythos, for them, it's the character that we created just spawned in the campaign headquarters, right? That's how they would look at it. In video game terms, the NPC entered the player's base. And I can tell you now, the political class, I think, underestimates the power of a myth returning to stage. So here's where the liberty lens comes in. Barron Trump isn't powerful because of anything he's said or done. He's powerful because millions of Americans, especially young Americans, have already emotionally invested into the idea of him. And ideas are more durable than even individuals. Movements with successors, even mythical ones, will outlast their founders. Rome had Romulus and Remus, for example. Camelot had Arthur. Reaganism had the Gipper myth. MAGA now has Trump the Elder and Trump the enigmatic heir. And I'm not saying Barron's going to run for office. I'm saying his image is already being used as a cultural currency by millions of people who feel detached from traditional politics. And here's the quiet truth the media won't touch in this story when it does eventually blossom into a full mainstream story. By living in the White House, Barron Trump is becoming something new in American politics. He's not just a child of a president. He's a young adult archetype of a movement. He embodies the next generation's anxieties, their hopes, their memes, and their myth making. And that's why this story matters, and I chose to cover it today because not because he's influencing policy, although who knows, he might be. Not because he's a political actor, he isn't, and maybe he never will be, but because he's a rare figure onto whom an entire generation projects meaning. He's a symbol produced out of silence. So where does that leave us? Barron Trump has become something of a cultural mirror, a generational avatar. He's kind of a myth with a zip code. And now he is a physical presence in the center of American power. So if you want to understand the future of the Trump movement, you have to understand not just the man in the Oval Office, but the silhouette upstairs, who for millions of young Americans represents something far stranger, deeper, and more revealing than traditional politics ever could. And trust me, we'll be watching this story closely. And there may be strategic implications for this, right? Barron Trump symbolizes a generational standoff, whether it's intentional or not. For 18 to 25-year-olds who see politics as entertainment, he's the first son who actually feels like one of them, not policy-wise per se, We don't know what Barron Trump believes, but vibe-wise, a little stoic, a little mysterious, a little meme-coded, right? And his presence kind of complicates the structure of power inside the White House. The staff now whisper about having two audiences in the residence, the president and his son. And that matters. Proximity shapes influence. And the anti-dynasty wing of the GOP is quietly uneasy. They don't want another Bush family. They don't want Trumpism to become hereditary. They want ideas, not heirs. And the media has no idea how to talk about this without sounding creepy, so they avoid it, which makes the story even bigger in the underground conversation. The amount of coverage that Barron Trump gets online versus how much he's getting in the legacy media is just, it's dwarfed. So that's interesting. A family member in the building, of course, not inherently bad. What really matters, what does Barron Trump believe? If he starts to step into politics for whatever reason, is he hawkish a little bit like his dad? Is he populist, business-minded, apolitical? We don't know. He hasn't said more than 3 sentences on camera in the last 5 years. So, and of course, that means every faction is projecting onto him. Coming up at 8 a.m. Central Time this morning, Camelia Peterson joins us to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, the Groyper Wars, the anti-Indian prejudice on the right, and the H-1B backlash inside the MAGA movement. Don't go anywhere, guys. We haven't unlocked the bonus content yet, which means that we're going to have commercials. But don't freak out. Here's what you do. If you want to watch the fun little 5-minute mini documentary, head over to the Griff shop during the commercial break. And if we, for whatever reason, go from $44 to $100 raised, I will immediately turn on the mini documentary for you guys so that you can watch it before Camelia comes up to join us here in just a few minutes. I wonder what JJ4884 thinks about the anti-Indian sentiment, Vivek Ramaswamy, H-1B visas. I guess we'll have to wait to find out. Or he'll just drop it in the chat. We'll be right back, guys. It's the Wake Up America show. Don't go away. You cannot go anywhere. You stay right here. Except if you go to forlibertyshop.com. You can go there, but that's it. Nowhere else. We'll be right back. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it.
Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty. It's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers, pronouns are mandatory, and Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third?
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money.
It's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
here.
No, you don't. We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
I'll
give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. You know, making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
Has Trump been listening to the Cato Institute? Good morning. Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching, listening to the Wake Up America show. Joining us now live is Camellia Peterson to break down a story. It's kind of bubbling under the surface, but now it's kind of impossible to ignore. And that is Vivek Ramaswamy becoming the front line of the Groyper war, and attacks on him have stepped up recently, in large part due to Trump's comments like that. Good morning, Camellia, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. So, what cracks me up about this is watching all of the online right-wing influencers. They can't decide whether or not, you should trust the plan and the 3D chess, or if he's getting bad advice. I saw all this go the other day, and I had to do the meme. So I had the sweating man meme with the two buttons, which is it? We don't know which way to go.
It is a challenge, of course. If you place all your politics around a singular person, then it can be confusing and get muddy. If you're grounded in a principle or in constitutional values, then it's a lot easier to sort of to suffer slings and arrows of outrageous fortunes if you know what you're getting into when you're talking about politicians. But Trump makes good points there. I mean, what he was talking about with the manufacturing of batteries, he would know. The problem is that the populism, there's a sort of wisdom of the crowds that comes with populism, but economics is really just it's not graspable by the common peasant tongue. I hate to sound like an elitist in a time of populism, but here's the thing. Here's the difference between the peasants and the elites. What the peasantry don't understand, Camellia, is that there are no solutions in this world. There are only trade-offs. And therefore, if the peasant class were to one day discover such a thing, they might realize that Trump is having to make compromises all the way down to ensure that he can make America great again. Here's me trusting the plan. Your take.
Well, so what's funny about this is that people are all over the map with what they say the H-1B visas do, because the argument for it obviously is the skilled labor, and and I think it's a legitimate argument that you hear people talk about. We have a doctor shortage. We have all of these things where we need that highly skilled labor, and there's an argument about, okay, why can't we pull those people from Americans? Like, is the resource just not there? Are there things that need to be reformed about the H-1B process? Probably. I think that there's pretty much a general consensus that there does need to be some reforms. But, on the other hand, you'll see people saying, oh, it's not for high skilled labor at all. You just get these people, they come in that are normies, that they then train them on the job because they don't have to pay them this, that, or the other, right? And so that's where they say they're taking American jobs. So I think for the public, it's actually probably difficult to discern what is accurate when it comes to that, because you hear that all of the time. And so, the average person is not going to know how to go dig into the data on this and figure out, are these really truly just high skilled workers or not?
Well, if you have a dummy job, which is that you need to be told what to do, right? Mm-hmm. And not everybody who has a dummy job is a dummy. But if it's the type of job where you have to have instructions to do everything that you need to do that day, then they don't want to import those jobs, and I understand why. Anybody can do a dummy job that is the type of job where it's like clean the porch or, spray the liner in the truck bed or something, okay? But in order to have the type of job that you have a higher degree of agency for, right, H-1B visas are for. Now, I know that the system has been abused to go after, and they've been bringing in a lot of people in those dummy jobs, and that deserves a conversation. But just out of curiosity, whose job do you think that Albert Einstein took when he came to the United States, Camellia? Right? Who do you, right. Well, do you think did Albert Einstein take somebody's job, a genius job? Did he take it?
So did you see the post that was going around on X here in the last couple of days where it was talking about, we Americans have done all of this thing, and they listed off the moon landing. We didn't need anybody to do that. And of course, it's getting community noted to death because all of these things that they're listing off have, heavily involved people who were not Americans. Americans have done many, many, many great things, but that's the beauty of America, is that it is, in a sense, it has been the melting pot to where we bring the best and the brightest from around the world.
No, America became the best because we didn't let anybody in. And we didn't ever let anyone immigrate. And this has really been the Groypers gripe, isn't it? Because I think Nick Fuentes actually ran ads against Donald Trump in a swing state, putting up billboards in order to say that, in order to criticize Trump for allowing legal immigration. This is the Groyper gripe, that Republicans are like against illegal immigration, but Groypers and their adjacents are against legal immigration as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I will say that idea of being against legal immigration is not insignificant in its growth, right, on the right. I mean, I do think it even extends beyond just the Groyper circles. But it is, I don't know, there's a lot of things that have led to this point, but I think it's a mistake. You can talk all day long about why we are where we are. People are like, you got to make people work. Well, you can't make anyone want to work. You can't make them want to pursue, big positions and have grand goals when they can sit at home, on the government teat and not have to do much. It's very difficult to find people with a good work ethic anymore. And there are a lot of. It is all over the place, no matter where you go. It doesn't even matter what kind of job.
If I haven't been elitist enough this morning, let me tell you something. As someone who signs the front of paychecks, not the back of paychecks, that when you go on a job, I can't tell you how many times I've been left in the lurch from people that have stepped up and said that they were going to do a job, and then I'd pay perfectly good money to train them, and then they turn around and they disappear, and I had to invest all of that time, and they don't care. People don't care about their bosses. There was a really telling moment once for me when I was a jobber there working at the radio station, because even myself, you're sort of drunk with power as an employee of a corporation, because I remember somebody said, don't forget to thank John Zimmer for your health insurance. And then it just dawned on me how sort of entitled we can be sometimes as employees for someone else, because now, especially that I am an employer, I'm like, God damn, that was a perk, man. That was a luxury. Yes. And it costs a lot of stinking money to be able to offer that to your employees. And people are so damn ungrateful. And then they get entitled. They think they're entitled to the job. Well, let me just tell everybody right now that job is not your job. It's not an American job. It's not an Indian job, Pakistani job. You know who it is? It's the employer's job. My job. I create the job. It's my job. It's not your job. It's not the government's job. It's not Trump's job. It's not the community's input on who the job is. It's my stinking job. Right, Camelia?
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right. No,
damn
so
right.
The thing is like, I think people have been really mad at Vivek Ramaswamy lately because I think that this has resurrected his infamous tweet from last year where, he said that the reason that top tech companies hire foreign born and first generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American deficit. But he went on to say basically that a key part of it comes down to a culture issue, and that, we've venerated mediocrity over excellence for a very long time. And he says even going back to the 90s. And, to a certain extent, I think this is probably a natural side effect of a successful culture, of an advanced culture. I think it's kind of as a natural outcome.
It's the soft times that have created the soft men. And now we're going to go through hard times because of the soft men. Perfect metaphor there, Camelia. So Vivek Ramaswamy becomes a stand-in for the fight that's going on right now with H-1B visas and with the workforce. His tweet from last December, the one that had him driven from MAGA circles, is now resurfacing because his Democrat opponent is using it against him, painting him as saying he's lazy. So you have this war. He's become a proxy war for what's happening in the Republican Party. I believe that Vivek Ramaswamy in his Ohio race is the front lines of the war on the right, especially because Ann Coulter said to his face she would never vote for him for president of the United States, specifically because he's an Indian. So not everybody who disagrees with Vivek Ramaswamy or doesn't like Vivek Ramaswamy is bigoted or prejudiced, but many of them certainly are.
So here's the thing. If you often hear people say America is an idea, right? I mean, and there are things that are just foundational to the idea of America, and that personal responsibility and that drive and the opportunity to, if you work hard, that you're not guaranteed success, but you are guaranteed the right to pursue that by whatever means possible. And so it is, Vivek Ramaswamy embodies that American idea more than a lot of Americans who have been here for generations.
And here's the thing: the hypocrisy of this movement, because so many of these authoritarian right wingers who are attacking Vivek Ramaswamy, they don't meet the standards of Americanism as embodied by the founding fathers in any shape or form. They are, none of them fit for the American experiment, because they are not English or they are not French. As many of them are Germans. And the German Catholic tradition was alien to the foundation of the United States. There was a fight whether or not we would be an English-speaking country and a German-speaking country, and guess who won? The Brits. And they didn't want German Catholics to have power. John Adams said specifically, because they love to beat us over the head with the John Adams quote, "Our Constitution is fit for a moral country all the time." Well, yeah. Well, did you hear what he thought about Catholics and the rest of the founders thought about Catholics? Womp womp. You weren't welcome in the American experiment. So if we have room for German Catholics...
You are in German Catholic country, by the way.
Yeah, if you have room for the German Catholics, then we have room for the Hindu libertarian nationalists like Vivek Ramaswamy. I like Vivek because of his ideas. I don't give a shit about his his ethnic origin. I would vote for Vivek Ramaswamy over Gavin Newsom any day of the week. I would crawl over a broken glass to vote for Vivek. But you see the Groypers, they're actually out there they're flirting with Gavin Newsom because he's white.
It's like, okay.
This is what the world we're living in, Camellia. Break it down.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of work ethic most of the Groypers have, right? I mean, because the way that they behave, their ability to believe these things and espouse them and talk about them publicly is a luxury that is provided to them by the very country that they live in, that's founded on the opposite of the ideals that they are espousing. And so, when you talk about, whether or not about work ethic and jobs, there's so much America, the idea is built on adaptability. Like, we adapt to the changing times and we forge a way, and we're not stuck in all of the old ways that so many of these other countries are. Like, we are at the leading edge of advancement, and for good reason, because we have the free market atmosphere that makes that possible. But we're coming up on all these things that are coming up with the new authoritarian right that's branching off into its own brand of racism and bigotry. And with the rise in AI and technology, we're facing another front in this. And the question is are we going to whine about everything that comes along and the things that we're going to have to adapt to, like Matt Walsh is doing with AI and the sky is falling, the sky is falling?
We're going to be ruled by technocratic overlords. I know it's
or
tiresome.
are we going to pull our bootstraps and adapt and evolve and be successful?
There's a lot more. There's too much of an incentive to be a doomer these days. If you're like me and you find the silver linings in the clouds, people are just like, they don't want to hear it. That people want to be miserable, Camellia. It's kind of sad commentary on the times that we live in, that you have Vivek Ramaswamy, who is like me. He's aspirational. He's talking about how America's best times are behind us. Meanwhile, you got all of his opponents like, no, America sucks, but America first, and America only,
right.
But America's no future. And it's kind of like, no, you are the problem. They are the problem with society, not the people like us, not the builders, not the architects, not the people who are actually trying to build the future. The people who are trying to tear it down, they're not the future, right? If you live your life like you're living in a Tom Cruise dystopian science fiction film, I'd invite you to go outside and try touching grass. Get a life.
So, we were talking about data centers the other day. And last night I was at an event, and somebody was talking to me about, what are we going to do about these? And they're so bad, and there are a lot of people who think they are terrible, and we can't allow them in, and things like that. And I'm so pleased to see that here in Missouri, our Speaker of the House came up and he was like, there's so much opportunity here and we can do this in a good way. And I was like, yes, this is the attitude I want in my elected officials.
Exactly. Camelia, I love this. I love that we're taking in this direction because this is such a dark topic. It's just so filled with venom and hate and poison everywhere, toxicity everywhere. But, Indian Americans, they appear to be very sensitive to the criticisms that have been rising in recent months. A lot of anti-Indian sentiment has popped up in recent months, and a lot of it's tied to immigration. So do you think it's important to support Vivek Ramaswamy to ensure that the Doomers lose? Do you think it's important to support him because as the front line of this conflict, it's really a battle between the authoritarians and the libertarians, in my mind. Do you agree?
Yes, and I think that, what we saw with the whole heritage fiasco and the Groypers and, Tucker Carlson and all of that, and the backlash that came from the conservative right for that, that was promising. We need that continued kind of momentum, the sane wing of the right cannot rest. We cannot assume that things are just going to go our way and that we can rest on our laurels and not push back against these ideas because they are anti-American ideas. And so we need to, especially, when you're talking about if someone like Vivek Ramaswamy is talking about all of these things that Austin 10 years ago, that was conservatives who were saying those things. And they were saying that, our culture has a problem and they have no work ethic and they're not working and they are failing in school and they're not incentivized and all of these things. And they were complaining about those. But all of a sudden, when Vivek does it, that's a bad thing. And so I do think, that there is a large part of that is the color of his skin, which is terrible. That is, I tell you what, it used to be that the left would, well, not used to be, it still is, the left accuses the right of racism. And there's so many things that people are doing on the right now that just feed into that narrative. And I hate it. And people who... Poisonous. It is. So it is really important for people like us to push back against that and refuse to say that's not part of our movement.
Well, what's funny too is that with these elections that we had recently, some of the data that we've seen from that and from other elections in the past are the type of demographics that the Republican Party is losing, and then they're going out of their way to try and alienate or offend them even more. And then doubling down on the constituency that they already have that's locked in, and it just makes no sense from an electoral strategy or a moral perspective, in my opinion. And that's why Camelia Peterson and I are friends. Petersons, we tend to be very liberal. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. We love freedom, and that's why Camelia joins me on this Wake Up America show Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you enjoy our conversations, I hope you'll click the like button and follow as well. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Camelia has been on this show since we began over 3 stinking years ago. I'll tell you.
That wild.
Isn't that crazy, Camelia? It's crazy. Most podcasts don't last past 9 episodes, but by hook and by crook, by never missing an episode, from a lot of pain, a lot of challenges, a lot of screw ups here and there, I've managed to keep this thing afloat, and we've even grown. So I guess the question that we have to ask, Camelia, is the one that we've asked you for 3 years, and that is, when are you going to have your own podcast on the For Liberty Network? Don't we need a Politics and Pies with Camelia Peterson?
I don't know, man. That redheaded chick has about ruined the pie brand.
I don't think so. It's time to take the pies back. Everybody hates TRHL, but Vaz526 in the chat says, best show on the internet here. It's not even close. More people are acknowledging this, Camelia. There's this lady who I think she used to post hate about me all the time. She actually reposted the show, and when everybody was like, get in here. I think her name's Rosemary Steinbrook. Let's give it up. Somebody showed up to karate class last night, Camellia. Get this. So one of my fans showed up to karate last night in Jefferson City, Missouri, my little podunk, out in the middle of a cornfield karate class. And he was like, bro, I'm so excited to take your class. He's like, I watch every show. I love the Wake Up America show. He's like, and he's in town. He's doing a job. And he's like, can I please come in and help with the show and do something? So on Friday night for the Freedom Arcade, we're going to have him. He's going to come in. He's going to help us be on the show.
Yes, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. So we always try and do fan service. But Camellia, I always want to give you a chance to talk about anything that is important. What's coming across your desk? What are you working on these days? What's top of your mind? What's important to Camellia? Reveal your thoughts to us, woman.
Well, I will tell you, so I'm gearing up for next legislative session. That's all the boring, wonky stuff. However, top of my mind right now is that it is Thanksgiving season. It is my favorite holiday. For my day job, and night job, we've been doing, gratitude dinners for people in the grassroots because it's so important that people give of their time and their talent and their treasure, right, to care about what happens in their country and in their state. And I appreciate that so much because it takes commitment and everybody doing their part. And this is the one holiday out of the year where there's no expectations of you. It is all about, being grateful and your family and food and friends and all of those good things that we need so much. And but beyond that, this evening, I'm very excited. Our good friend Tony Lavasco is running for office again.
Oh, right.
So he is having his kickoff tonight. So I have had our mutual friends text me saying, "Are you going to be there?" And it just worked out so that I could actually be there tonight. So
all right.
Much luck to Tony.
Let's give it up for Tony. I think he probably still has his website. Is it votefortony.com?
Helptony.com.
Helptony.com. Okay, good. Helptony.com. We recommend Tony. He's a good man. And his wife, Eva, is also a lovely lady. So, Camellia, anything else? Connor Martin, it looks like he's going to see you there. Okay, great.
Yes.
Cool. Yes. Just don't bring any edible gummies because I think the Senate just banned him and Connor Martin's a cop now these days. He's a cop.
That's a whole other thing. Boy, the alcohol lobby's winning on that one, aren't they?
I guess they are. Well, we talked about that at the top of the show. We don't have time for it here. I got to have a young man who's joining us next. One of the biggest YouTubers in Canadian politics is going to be joining us in 5 minutes. Camellia, thank you so much for all your time. Now that it's Thursday, that means tomorrow's Friday. So enjoy your weekend.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. I'm so tired.
That was an official White House video. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to dive into something most people on the right tiptoe around, but not us, and definitely not our next guest. Canadian YouTuber Wyatt Claypool is joining us to break down the brutal truth about the right-wing influencer ecosystem, who's inflating their numbers, who's being artificially boosted, and how the rise of isolationism is reshaping the movement in ways that most people don't see coming. So this is going to ruffle feathers on all sides, neocons, paleocons, everywhere in between, which means it's going to be good. So grab your coffee, hit the like button, and stay right here. Stay here. Stay here. We'll be back. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. So Wake Up America show, and that is on the 4 Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama!
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways?
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're grateful to have you. Please click the like button if you haven't already. And if today's your first time watching the show, I'd love to have you be a regular guest. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule. And we'd love to be a part of your morning routine. Find out what's going on in the world, have a little fun while you're at it, and hear fantastic interviews like the one that I got coming up for you now. So we're going to pull back the curtain on something most people on the right don't want to talk about. And that is that there seems to be a growing gap between what online right-wing influencers say their numbers are and what the data actually shows. And one of the people who's being very courageous and speaking out about this publicly is my next guest. He's Canadian YouTuber Wyatt Claypool, who argues that a chunk of right-wing online influence is inflated, sometimes by algorithm quirks, sometimes by coordinated engagement rings, sometimes by money from sources that would make your eyebrows hit the ceiling. He also says that the explosion of isolationism on the right didn't happen naturally. It might have been nudged, boosted, perhaps, weaponized by certain ideological factions. And because Wyatt sits just across the border watching both Canadian and right-wing American ecosystems bleed into each other, he sees the patterns that the U.S. media can't or won't touch. So today we're going to dig into some of these inflated numbers, foreign influence, the paleocon versus neocon street fight, and what that means towards 2026. Joining us now, Wyatt Claypool. Good morning, Wyatt, and welcome to the Wake Up America show, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Wyatt, you said that the online right is inflating its numbers. When you talk about inflation, are we talking fake followers, AstroTurf engagement, algorithmic artifacts? What's the actual mechanism that some of these influencers are using?
Well, the thing I highlighted most recently was specifically the numbers that you see on the channel on Rumble for Elijah Schaffer's Rift TV. The thing with Rumble, as a lot of people have tried to basically debunk my points against Rift TV by pointing out that other accounts on Rumble also have sketchy looking numbers, so it's no big deal, or this is at least consistent across many channels. It's like, well, that's because a lot of Rumble is like the steroid era of baseball or the country music charts in the 1990s. They don't mean anything. It's literally people attempting to puff themselves up and look good. Because isn't it strange? Many of these people, some of which are not censored on YouTube at all, cannot pull off more than, a few thousand views on YouTube, despite it being the easier platform to go and discover content. But they shift over to Rumble, and it's 131,000 views on a video, 300,000, 60,000. If you are online long enough, you understand that to consistently, even on YouTube, be getting 50,000 plus views every single video, that's like a pretty dedicated audience you have to have underneath you. You have to have nearly or over 100,000 subscribers. And places like Rift TV on Rumble only have 64,000 subscribers and are consistently pulling off viewership above and beyond their actual amount of followers. And then you actually look under the hood at the engagement, and it just proves to you that, no, this is not real. This is somebody pretending to be bigger than they are.
Interesting. That's very interesting, especially because I'm a Rumble first community because YouTube has demonetized me. So I don't focus on it because there's no future for a commentator like me there. So I focus all my attention and energy on Rumble. And I have, it's pretty obvious I'm not inflating with bots, but every once in a while Rumble will boost the show. So it'll put me on the front page, and then I'll get like 30 to 60,000, views over there. But it's very intermittent. It doesn't happen all the time. And I don't count on it, right? I focus on kind of like building up my core audience, because my gambit is that it's better to not pretend to inflate your numbers, because you might get caught out by a Wyatt Claypool one day. And it is tempting though, Wyatt. It's tempting, but you've built up a following. You've built up a career with significant viewership over on YouTube, and you did it the old fashioned way. It is tempting to do these bots, but people like yourself, you can kind of tell when you're like yourself or myself, what's real and what's fake. So why pick this fight though, Wyatt? I mean, why bring it up? Why decide to, no enemies to the right? There's a big conversation on the right these days, right? I assume you're, right wing. You call yourself a neoconservative, which to me is, part of the broad right wing coalition. So why?
Well, I also even specifically say I'm neoconservative in my Twitter bio, and I throw Zionist in there. It's almost what I call woke right repellent, because neoconservatism isn't actually what people think the buzzword means. I base it off of the definition from the book that Douglas Murray wrote in the early 2000s, Neoconservatism: Why We Need It. It's hawkish foreign policy, generally speaking. It's small domestic government, and it's a rejection of moral relativism. So the idea is that I don't see just people act differently depending on the parts of the world, and you can't judge and stuff like that. Because that's actually a funny thing is you actually see that all the time now from what people call the woke right. Everything's relative. Oh, stop criticizing this person. You're being, like somehow overly critical. You're being like the left to criticize the language and the words that people use. And again, the funny thing is like this is all happening. I'm anti-censorship. I am just pro-criticism when it actually is helpful for trying to keep together the moral integrity of the conservative movement, whether it's on the Canadian side of the border or the American side of the border. And the reason the bots matter, the reason why inflated viewership matters, is because at the end of the day, people are oftentimes psyoped into believing wrong things simply because it seems popular. The whole thing that that Nick Fuentes' people say over and over again, and they do not use this in the normal conservative way, they say America first is inevitable. Again, they're not saying America first the way that you or another American would say it. They mean it in their own way. And the thing is that they act as if, well, they are just simply going to win because look at all the people joining their ranks. Well, half the members of their ranks speak in binary. These are not real people, but they can, they pretend like they represent a lot. And you'd be so shocked how many people, just because they see a lot of bot comments, think a lot of people are in fact, they hate certain other right-wing people, and maybe they shouldn't be so vocal about their support on for certain issues, certain countries, for certain people in the movement, because, oh, well, a lot of people told me that, Ben Shapiro's a bad guy in the Twitter comments, and I shouldn't like him, or whatever.
Well, the bot, right?
Cool,
well, I mean, yeah, because nobody wants to get attacked by these online bots. I've certainly been, the leftists actually do this very effectively, and now we're actually seeing this on the right, because I have experienced 2 or 3 massive bot wave attacks. Whenever I get attacked by like the Occupy Democrats in this country, which happens every once in a while, a surge of death threats and hatred and China bots and all of these fake profile accounts start hitting me. And I know that it's an influence operation, right? They're trying to get me to back off, which of course makes me want to double down. But now the right is starting to adapt some of these tactics from the left. And that's one level of provocation in our body politic. That is a toxicity within it. But there's something even more insidious that you're asserting, which is that there might be potential foreign influence involved in this one. Not just foreign influence like Wyatt Claypool from Canada, but much further away, thousands of miles away, perhaps. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, and to clarify, I do contribute to America. I do go and I stay a lot.
Sure,
I spend a lot of time.
You do. We're keeping.
I spend a lot of time in Montana, to be fair.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on you shifty Canadians.
Hey, and if I make Canada a little bit less crazy, it means that it won't end up filtering into the United States. The funny thing is people act like, oh, you're some sort of closet liberal or something like that, closet leftist. I run a more right-wing party. I help run a more right-wing party than the standard conservative party in British Columbia. I help run something called 1BC, which is like more right-wing and goes after all of the indigenous.
Don't worry, Wyatt. Well, you don't have to air your credentials out here. We got you, bud. I invited you on this. I know you're legit, but talk to me about the more malign foreign influences.
Well, and I wanted to pull this up just because a lot of the times, people aren't just speculating about this for no reason. I'm just pulling up Elijah Schaffer's own X account because yesterday he effectively said that he went overseas to sign a deal to help grow Rift TV. He said this. He said, "I'm running on 4 hours of sleep in 50 plus hours. Being out of the country and back in the last 24 hours, did 4 shows in between, signed new contracts to grow Rift." It's like, so you signed a contract, and presumably based on the sentence structure there, you were out of the country for that you are signing a deal with someone outside of the country.
Well, it could be Australia. I mean, he does have residency there as well, just to kind of throw that out there. I mean, it's sort of my concern about doing deals with foreign powers would not be something like if you went to Melbourne or if you went to Montreal, but if you went to Doha, then I might be concerned. So do you have any reason to believe that it's not that he went to a country like Australia, perhaps?
No, to be fair, Elijah Schaffer wouldn't let anyone else get away with taking a scent that was outside of outside of the 50 states. Maybe he wouldn't even be okay with Hawaii. But my thing with him, though, and why I see it as potentially being a foreign-funded news organization, Rift TV, is because of just how little actual content is on their website, how just low their viewership is, especially when you correct for what looks like botted views on Rumble. How does something like Rift TV sustain itself with several employees? I know people who've seen their studio. They say it's hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. It's a very good-looking studio. They can put together a good-looking show, and nobody's watching, but everyone presumably is still getting paid. And what I've seen in Canada over time is the way you tend to be able to identify a CCP front group, like a Chinese state-funded newspaper operating in Canada, is that they have so many employees, but you don't know anyone who reads this thing. But it's basically just there, funded just to try and convince people on the fringes, because that's all they need. Propaganda tends to have a lot more money dumped in it to achieve very little compared to real media that people actually want to read and can be funded by the viewership. Here's another funny thing about Rift TV's website. They've operated for a long time. I think, ironically enough, they started up a little bit after Tenant Media ended up going down in flames. But you actually cannot get a membership to Rift TV. I tried. You keep clicking on their membership buttons. You try and look up website URLs where you might be able to find a membership portal, rifttv.com/membership/signup/join. It doesn't exist. So how are these guys making any money if apparently from the audience side, I'm not allowed to give them any money?
Now, that is a really interesting question, Wyatt. And that's the kind of internet sleuthing that only somebody in your position could do. Interesting questions. I'll tell you, I've only had an often on-again relationship with Elijah where he would invite me on his shows. When he was working for The Blaze, he was always very kind to me. This was before he got let go by The Blaze. I went down, I did some interviews with him, and he seemed to be acting in good faith to some extent. He's kind of a natural entertainer, which is really important for this business. What we do, you do have to entertain people to some extent. But I guess in terms of like botting, I don't know if the claims that you're making necessarily, if they even can be verified, right? I think you're asking good questions. But I mean, how confident are you that you could produce, real evidence if you continue down this line of sleuthing that would be like a CoffeeZilla moment, if you will, to use a YouTube phrase on Elijah? Yeah. I mean, do you think that the evidence that you could provide that this botting is going on and things like that, do you think that it's ironclad? Could you win a court case against these people?
Well, there's two things on this. One, just to give your audience a little background on specifically the engagement issues with his account on Rumble, is that if I look at videos on his account that have 20,000 views, have 23,000 views, I know that Rumble has a bit of a different culture when it comes to liking videos and commenting. I hear it's a little bit annoying to sign in to be able to watch stuff, to be able to like, they force you to sign in a lot more. But regardless, though, I can just, compare his metrics to his own metrics. A video with 20,000 views, supposedly, and maybe that's even bot boosted, I don't know, but it will have 250, 275, 230 likes. The comments will be around 80 or 100 or something like that. But then you'll look at his channel and a video with 131,000 views, so multiple times more 5-6 times as many views, has 333 likes on it. And it has 50 comments. It's like, well, that feels a little bit weird. It feels like he has extremely inelastic engagement depending on the viewership. I think I saw another one of his videos that only had like 8,000 or 7,000 views on Rumble, and it had like 100 likes on it. It's like, okay, well, if I compare that one to the one with 131,000, this feels weird. Like there's potentially this, and of course, there could always be this extremely hardcore base of Elijah Schaffer fans who show up and like everything, and everyone's just a fair weather fan, just here for a few minutes to watch, and that's it, but it's all legit. Probably not, though. And again, if you look at a lot of other areas of Rumble, you'll have people claiming 300,000 views on a random live stream for somebody who, is popular, but are they that popular? But even their numbers don't look as sketchy as Elijah Schaffer's. And I would then compare Elijah to Steven Crowder, somebody who everyone knows his audience is organic. If anything, Steven Crowder should probably be the CEO of Rumble. Not shot anyone at Rumble, but my point is just like the guy helped really kickstart Rumble when he moved his entire audience over and sort of gave them that base of probably a couple million people who were willing to show up for him. His videos, even if it's a video where Gerald Morgan is filling in for Crowder, the video will have 240,000 views, which it's a big deviation from when Crowder's on, so they're not just boosting every video because, Crowder's not on, so less people are going to be watching. But with the 240,000 views on a video, it'll be 3,200 likes. It will be hundreds of comments. And if I go to a video on Rift TV with 175,000 or 131,000, a little bit more than half of what Crowder has, it's not even a fraction of their likes. Again, it's 333 likes on a video with 131,000 views compared to Gerald Morgan with 240,000 views, having 3,200 people click the like button.
Well, that is an insane amount of detail, Wyatt, and you make a strong case. Speaking of case, though, have you been following the lawsuit against Elijah Schaffer that he's currently apparently fundraising for? And if you are, could you fill us in on that?
Well, this is where so you're reminding me of my other point that I forgot to bring up. I got lost in the sauce there. But Alexis Wilkinson, who is suing Elijah Schaffer for defamation, is probably the one who can uncover how real a lot of this engagement is. Because if anything, Elijah Schaffer may actually have to prove my audience isn't that big. This isn't worth the damages you think it is because nobody even watches me. But the thing with the lawsuit as well is that Elijah Schaffer is actually the one who put himself in the corner on this thing. He actually has made himself legally vulnerable. I'm not just saying because he posted something about Alexis Wilkinson that caused her to want to sue him, but he can't actually use the strongest defense that any other person could, which is saying it was a joke. Because Elijah Schaffer is the one who has set the precedent we all know online that you don't know if Elijah Schaffer is joking or not. And so
now wait a minute. Before we go a little bit too much into the weeds on that one briefly, I just want to ask, who is Alexis Wilkinson? Why is this important? Because our audience probably isn't as steeped in the internet lore.
Yeah, so Alexis Wilkinson is the girlfriend of Kash Patel, of course, the FBI director, and Elijah Schaffer got himself into hot water with her, causing her to sue him because he had quote tweeted a post that was describing how Mossad agents act as honeypots to get into foreign governments and be connected with powerful people in them in order to get access to information or influence decisions and all this stuff. It was just big, long, conspiratorial post about how Israel must actually have influence inside every single government in the Middle East and elsewhere. And Elijah Schaffer then quote tweets that, so we all know what he is talking about. There's a lot of context to why he would quote tweet this specific thing. He quote tweets it with no words, but a photo of Kash Patel and his girlfriend, Alexis Wilkinson. Courts, by the way, understand implication. You don't just get to a courtroom and people are going to be like, oh, well, I didn't actually have it providing words, so you don't know why I posted that. Yeah, courts don't buy that. They actually are thinking people who understand what you are attempting to imply by doing that. And even Alexis Wilkinson in her lawsuit has been very specific that this is a very obvious implication in order to basically stir up mockery and hysteria and other conspiracy theories about me. And based on the sorts of things that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Elijah Schaffer and others will put out there, and people will just believe, it's not at all out of the realm of possibilities that this will just become a narrative about Alexis unless she pushes back on it. Because again, we have a lot of people basically willing to believe any little tiny unevidenced implication or joke that one of these people puts out against another person. You know, what was it? Candace Owens the other day was just going after some random guy on
in the crowd
at
the campus where Charlie Kirk was shot. That's so insane. I can't even begin. Like, I only usually just rarely touch on Candace Owens because, like, to some extent it's so irrelevant to the body politic in ways, because it's a very online phenomenon. And when I go to my Republican meetings here, nobody watches it. Nobody cares. Nobody's like, they're all like you, Wyatt Claypool. They're all neocons. But now, Wyatt, I think that what you're doing is good work. Sometimes I don't know how I feel about Elijah Schaffer, because sometimes I think it really is just an act. And when you look at Alex Jones, for example, when his empire came crumbling down, his defense, which didn't help him, his defense was that he is just an entertainer, right? And you say Elijah's defense now is going to be, I was joking, or I'm not as important. If they get a judgment, let's say that he has to actually pay a humongous fee. Candace Owens is being sued in a similar way. I mean, he's going to have to say that he's not as influential as he really is. I mean, that exposes him, but it doesn't necessarily get rid of. Alex Jones is still out there doing what he's doing. It bankrupts him, but it doesn't really stop him, does it, Wyatt?
Well, and that's the problem for Elijah. He's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, where to potentially offset the idea that he has damaged Alexis Wilkinson in any way, he'd have to be like, well, you know, so much of my X following is actually not real. A lot of my viewership is not actually real. So you're actually going after a very small creator here, and the only reason that people even know about what I said is because you sued me or something like that, which I actually don't really buy. I think actually the thing is that you actually really can't bot impressions on X. You can bot likes, which is why every once in a while you'll see like a Nick Fuentes or an Ian Carroll replying to some random person in a long thread of replies, and somehow their reply has like 10,000 likes in like an hour. It's like, oh yeah, that's totally real. And then it's like 10,000 likes, but the impressions on the actual thing they said are lower than the amount of likes it has, and it makes no sense at all.
And Elon Musk promised he was going to stop this, by the way.
I think Elijah Schaffer was one of the people who used to actually have like more than 1 million followers, and since a bit of a recent bot purge, I think he only has like 800,000 now. But here's something else about the lawsuit, because of course, you know, as people do, hey, I have a fundraiser for a legal fund. I actually have a billionaire connected to the CCP suing me, and it's been going on for 4 years, and he's still I'm the one having to chase him now to actually do any of his legal filings, because he knows that it was frivolous, and he's scared that the precedent where I live is that he owes me double as somebody with a lot of money who's launched a frivolous lawsuit if I end up winning. But he launched a Give, Send, Go legal fund, and it's funny that this guy who supposedly is so popular, a lot of people want to run to his defense, he's only really raised $10,000, despite his legal fund and the video attached to it having almost probably around 10 million impressions at this point. He only raised around $10,000. Now the legal fund currently has $30,000, a little more than 30. But it's because there are 2 donations of $10,000 a pop, which feels a little bit odd if you can't really get, you know, small scale organic donations. But you can get 2 donations of $10,000. I see that as either Elijah himself priming the pump, or some sort of funder of Rift TV or benefactor just giving them $10,000 and trying to not embarrass him. You know, because it kind of looks bad begging for money on the internet and barely actually getting any money. Because if you were a friend of his, why wouldn't you just e-transfer it to him and not actually incur the fees that Give, Send, Go, you know, rightfully takes for helping set up a platform for you? If you know the guy, just e-transfer it to him.
Yeah, exactly. And for those who are watching the Wake Up America show right now from our audience, they can drop Rumble rants too. Just a reminder. Wyatt, I want to give you a chance to do your plug, of course, sir. You've been very generous with your time this morning. Where can people follow your work online?
Well, I'm one of the people who has not been slapped down by the YouTube gods yet, and so they can follow me on the National Telegraph on YouTube, especially if any Canadians are watching, or people in border states. I actually find that there's a decent amount of people in Montana who, Montana politics can be a bit sluggish, so they actually follow stuff up in my home province of Alberta.
That's interesting. Well, Alberta was the one part of Canada that I actually said that Trump should take over. I don't know if you'd be amenable to that as a neoconservative, a hardcore interventionist on foreign policy, but it sounds like it would be something that would be up your alley. So what do you say, Wyatt?
No, probably not, just from the perspective that I believe that you want your eggs mixed up in many different baskets. One big mega country has, one big central point of failure. Plus, I don't think people would realize that it would probably go Democrat for a lot of elections in a row, just simply because of the frankly really childish anti-American sentiment you get in a lot of places in Canada. Like you don't realize how much Canadians irrationally don't like Americans until you hang around here in the politics for a few months.
I have to explain this to my friends. It blows their minds when I tell them this. When Trump makes these things on Canada, and I have to explain to my family and friends who are kind of normies that I'm like, you don't know how much Canada hates you. They hate you so much. They go overseas and talk smack about Americans and how they're not Americans, and I'm like, and here Americans are like, we think Canadians are these friendly, have some beer, talk about it, right? We think that they're like people on the South Park show, but the intense level of hatred the Canadians have for Americans these days is off the hook. Well, if we did take you over and you voted Democratic for a few elections, that'd be okay. Nice try talking us out of it, Henry Kissinger. But the truth is that you have oil, and one day it will be our oil. Hey, Wyatt, you have a great day, brother, and thank you so much for your time. You have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any sort of patriotism in my heart for America, but just in general. I'm not like a very, I care about people. What makes it interesting for me, at least, is like seeing so many people from all around the country literally travel here just to see this.
That part is insane. Look how many.
I just don't I don't have any sort of patriotism in my heart for America, but just in general. I'm not like a very.
Then stay there in China. Boo. All right, guys, it's time for us to go home. It's time for us to start our days. My day is like a third over right now. I'll start the second part of my day, and then there's the third part of my day. I'll just never stop. The Wake Up America show is brought to you in part by people like you. $74 raised towards the bonus content means no bonus content today, but maybe tomorrow. It's really my fault because I didn't get the stream on the right page. But if you do want to get your Christmas shopping done early, you can get it started by visiting the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. And we'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Hope you guys enjoy the guests. Bye-bye.
The Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.